Hello, this is Professor Scott Norman at the Pittsburgh State University Automotive Technology Department. And today we are in the Automotive Fuels Lab and we are doing a reed vapor pressure testing. So this morning on November 9th, I went to the local gas station and I got some samples of fuel. So I got a gallon of 87 octane, 89 octane, and 91 octane. And so the first thing I do when I get a new sample of fuel for students to test is I put it on ice because I want to save the vapors. And you know, my professor who taught me about fuels, Professor Ken Gordon, used to always say, "Protect those vapors." And so, so the key is that the automotive fuel, when it gets hot, will start to vaporize, and so you'll lose the light in of the fuel, which is again the best part of the fuel. And so if you don't protect your vapors and you don't have a sealed cap on your container, it will evaporate on a hot day, and then you start having problems maybe December when you have to start your snowblower or something like that, and it doesn't start because the fuel is stale, we'll call it. And so what this is simulating is on a hot day. Think about this, a nice summer hot day, the fuel in your tank, you know, you're on summer vacation or something like that, you're going down the highway, you're going over bumps, the fuel is agitating as you're driving, you know, and then obviously it's hot, you know, you got heat from the sun, you got heat from the vehicle, you got heat from the road surface. Think about the car that is sitting in the parking lot on a hot summer day. You know, you can get to 120, 130 degrees pretty easy inside that car, and so that fuel tank gets pretty hot. And so every time, or even, you know, this guy right here is sitting out in the hot sun in the back of a pickup truck or something like that, and you open it, and every time you open it, you're hearing those vapors escape. Well, how much of those vapors are actually escaping? So what I'm doing is I like to do a test point where I'm actually able to see what the reed vapor pressure is on a brand new sample of fuel that I got today, write it down, and then do some other testing with it to see how much of those vapors I lose. Because as I lose those vapors, in the wintertime, it's definitely going to be harder to start my vehicle or the lawnmower or the chainsaw or something like that. So for my 87 octane, we are at 13.6 psi. So we're on the high end of the reed vapor pressure, which is good going in the winter. My 87 octane, I'm confident that it's gonna start my lawnmower or my truck in cold weather, which is perfect. My 89 anti-knock index octane is at 10.5, which is still respectable. Again, it's on the high side. That's where I expect it to be at. You have to realize that octane is a different measurement as far as compared to volatility. We're measuring volatility. How easy is it for this fuel to vaporize? So what we're going to do is that I'm going to do two different things since I need to run another test with my 91 octane still. Is that I'm going to take my 87 octane, and you know, think of this as, you know, you got your fuel in the tank of your truck on a nice hot summer day, and or it's in a gas can, could be in a gas tank, and you open it up. You know, it's not sealed all the way, so we're gonna I got a rag over this because I got 13 pounds of pressure, so it's gonna go psst, and I don't want to get fuel over myself. You know, that's not good. Walking into my air conditioning class later on today smelling like gasoline, and so I'm gonna slowly open it and let all the pressure come down slowly, so you can see the gauge drop down. So I'm actually letting all the light ends escape. Every time you open up your gas can to fill up your lawnmower, that's what's happening. The light ends are escaping. And obviously small engines like lawnmowers and chainsaws or weed whackers are a lot more sensitive than my big V8 I have in my truck. Okay, so we're at 0 at this point, and so now I'm gonna close it back up again and put it back in my bath and see what happens next. We're back, and if you take a look at the gauge readings, the 87 octane that started out originally at 13.6 reed vapor pressure, I opened up the canister, let the vapors escape, screwed it back in, heated it back up, put it in the test bath, shook it up a few times, so it's been in there for 10, 15 minutes. It stopped climbing for a while. It's been sitting here for a while. It hasn't moved. We're at about 5.5 reed vapor pressure. So that was just opening up that container one time, and the vapors escaped. And once those vapors escaped, they don't come back. And so now if I took this fuel sample and try to start a lawnmower on a cold day, or your chainsaw, or could be your pickup truck or your car, it could be a problem. So we're pretty steady at about 8.5 on that 89 octane, so I think I'm going to call it that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to then take this guy here, which is our 87 octane, got to keep them straight, and I'm going to open it up one more time. So maybe I put fuel in my chainsaw. Now I'm going to put fuel in my weed eater. So I'm going to open up the test container one more time on a hot day. So you're working on the hot sun. Maybe you're one of those guys that is mowing grass all day long, and I see their fuel containers on the back of their trailers all the time. And they probably open those things probably, I don't know, a few times during the day. You're probably saying, but Professor Norman, we're not cutting grass in January. Well, maybe not in Kansas, but maybe someplace else you are. Okay, so we let all the pressure out. I figure out righty-tighty, lefty-loosey on this thing. We'll be okay. Get it tight again, and we're going to let it. So right now we're at 0 PSI. We're going to put it in the back one more time and just see if all my vapors, what does it go to now? And already it's up at 2 PSI, but I'm telling you, 2 PSI on a cold day would be considered bad fuel. We'll warm it back up again and give it a chance. So we'll come back one more time and take a look at the end results of this. We're back, and so the end result would be on my 91 octane is we're probably at about 8.7, 8.8 PSI. So the reed vapor pressure of the 91 octane was the lowest that we had. The 89 octane, which remembering, was 10.5 at the end result, and the 87 octane was 13.6. Out of those three samples, the 87 octane would be the best fuel for your lawnmower, to try to, as far as cold drivability, try to get that thing to have a volatile mix in order to where the fuel is a vapor and it's able to ignite. On an automobile, a car, you got 4 cylinders, 6 cylinders, 8 cylinders. You crank that thing over and the spark plug is firing. That spark plug is going to warm up that cylinder enough to probably get all of these fuels to actually ignite in a vapor state. But the problem is that you see that on this one right here, where I opened up the canister twice already. Right now we are at about a little bit over 3 PSI, which would be considered under, that it's too low a pressure. And so the more of the story, and again I tell my students all the time, is to protect your vapors. You want a gas can to be sealed. You want it to be sealed well. If it doesn't balloon out a little bit when it gets hot, and if it doesn't constrict on a cold morning and cave in, it's not sealed right. And of course, if it's not sealed, you're losing your vapors. And so may not be a big deal in the summertime when you have, maybe a tractor that has multiple cylinders, but if you have that single cylinder lawnmower, that one spark plug takes a long time for it to finally, as you're pulling it with your hand and your arm gives out, trying to get it warm enough to ignite. As far as the poor volatility. So again, and this was only opening it twice. So I opened it 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Obviously, we're going to see the volatility go down every single time. I was curious what our evaporative losses were on that 87 octane, and so this particular sample chamber holds approximately 128 milliliters of fuel. Well, after we opened up this container twice and I poured the fuel back out, I'm at 112 milliliters. So when you calculate that out, that's around a 13% loss of fuel from your evaporative emissions. I remember my dad, he keeps all of his fuel out at the farm, out in the middle of the sun, kind of by the tractor, right there, easy to to fill up all of his implements and stuff. And he kept thinking that someone was stealing his fuel, because he'd take a 5-gallon tank and maybe get a gallon out of it, and all of a sudden there's not much left. And well, it was out in the hot sun, and the cap wasn't sealed very good, and there was a hole in it where he had a pencil sticking in to try to plug up the vent, and well, he was losing his fuel a lot from evaporative emissions. And so just from this sample at 100 degrees outside, you open this thing up twice, you could be at a 13% loss as far as fuel volatility, or loss of the fuel as far as volume. Bottom line is protecting your vapors of your fuel. Keep it stored in a cool place, a dry place, out of the direct sunlight. I don't like to keep it in the basement or inside the house. Fuel is a very volatile hydrocarbon. Keep it outside in a shed, but the cooler the better. Definitely out of the sun. There's no doubt about it. This is Professor Scott Norman, and hopefully you guys are liking the automotive education videos that I'm producing. If you're looking for more, you can look for my Professor Pintane YouTube channel. And I'm also, I have a website, just look for professorpintane.com. Thank you very much for watching. You guys enjoy the day.